Welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm Ramzan Karmali. Today we're talking European supermarkets, and my guest is Russ Mould, Investment Director at AJ Bell. The grocery industry continues to face numerous disruptions. Perhaps the one most in focus right now for Europe's biggest supermarkets is the ongoing cost of living crisis. Food prices are at an all-time high due to global inflation and, according to the World Bank, are unlikely to stabilise until 2024. As a result, many of the biggest players in the sector are coming under increasing pressure from discounters, who often offer similar or the same products to customers at much lower prices. But as well as this, like many retail businesses, they also face rising supply chain costs, labour and raw material shortages, and geopolitical conflicts, and changes in customer behaviour and expectations. So what do European supermarkets need to do in order to navigate all these disruptions they face? And are there any opportunities they can take advantage to boost their profitability? Well, to help answer those questions now, I'm joined by Russ Mould, Investment Director at AJ Bell. Russ, historically food inflation has been in the low single digits. Now we're looking at high teens. How are supermarkets going to cope with this? How are their stock prices going to manage this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge for them because in the end, retailing is ultimately a relatively simple business. Provide products that people want at a price that people want and can afford and are willing to pay in a format that they want to use. And it is that straightforward. But yes, when your input costs are rising at double digits, you have a choice to make. You can either defend margins and whack up your prices, you can cut prices and take a margin hit, or you can go somewhere down the middle and try and squeeze your sub-suppliers as hard as you possibly can without doing damage to that supply chain. And you're probably seeing a little bit of all three across some of the European supers right now.
The war in Ukraine has clearly had an impact on prices of grain and fertilizer. Do you see those pressures easing now?
We're getting some relief. According to the United Nations Food and Agricultural Index, we are now seeing, I think, 11 consecutive drops in that index. It's now 19% off its peak. You've seen particular progress in things like dairy and cereals. You've had that Russo-Turkish deal that has released some supply through the Black Sea. Meat is still relatively more expensive than it was, but there is now some hope there for consumers, and I'm sure that supermarkets, either out of political pressure to some degree, or again a willingness to keep share, will be looking to pass some of those improvements on, no doubt.
Supermarkets, like many industries, are facing sort of this labour shortage problem, and recently we've seen a lot of wages go up in that industry. Is that a problem for supermarkets and their profitability?
It's a challenge. Equally, you want to keep the staff that you've got, and let's face it, even warehousing staff, they've not been terribly easy to find. And if you're looking to roll out an online service, then you're going to need really, really good warehousing staff and good, dependable warehousing staff. So that is a challenge for them. It's one that they're meeting. If you look at margins overall, I think Geronimo Martin showed a little bit of pressure last year. The others have been holding reasonably firm, but it's a 3 to 4% operating margin business overall. I know that politicians get hot under the collar about profiteering and accusations that they're gouging customers, but when you're making margins of that relatively low level, it's pretty keen out there on the competitive front.
And supermarkets, famously in the UK, have had real issues with supply chains. How do they overcome that?
They have. I mean, there have been some self-inflicted wounds. If you remember Tesco's and Romanian horse meat and all those other problems that they got themselves into a good decade ago now. Supply chains, yeah, at the moment, if you look at the UK, things like cucumbers and tomatoes and salad, they've been in short supply, and that's been on the political agenda in Westminster. And that is there's a big challenge there, because we've seen farm workers leave the UK. We've seen the UK find itself perhaps, it's not easy to grow tomatoes in the UK in winter, let's face it, and those who do grow them in polytunnels, the energy prices have gone up, so it's been very expensive. So farming self-sufficiency is a big political issue in the UK, a big economic one, and one that goes just beyond just what the supermarkets can do.
And I know there isn't a specific index for supermarkets, but are there supermarkets that you guys prefer at the moment?
If you look at the way that the market looks at them, Geronimo Martin's is the one that trades on the highest multiple of earnings. It's got that sort of emerging market magic dust to it. Poland, Colombia, looking to penetrate the Czech Republic and one or two other markets. The lowest rated ones are probably Ahold Delhaize and Carrefour. Ahold Delhaize, Europe and the US. Carrefour, mainly US, little bit of Brazilian emerging markets. Perhaps a more mature profile, but probably bigger players in their market. Tesco and Sainsbury in the UK sit somewhere in between. Tesco's has got lots of levers it can pull. It's just releasing Whoosh, it's sort of 1 hour delivery service. It's got the club card. I know that that's slightly upset people with some of the discounts that they put through there recently to the benefits they offer. But Tesco's, I think, in terms of its scale, its ability to switch channels, and its brand, it's probably better placed than Sainsbury's, which to me feels like it's slightly in the squeeze middle when it comes to its competitive position.
And is there anyone we should avoid at the moment?
Well, the one that the rating agencies are most concerned about is Casino of France. They downgraded its debt to junk last week, citing a big liabilities pile, weak profitability and weak cash flow, and that's obviously the one that's in a very, very competitive European market, finding life particularly tough right now.
Russ Mould from AJ Bell, many thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
And that is your look at European supermarkets. I'm Ramzan Karmali, and this is Reuters.